Presentation is going to cover on-site assessor training, completing a comprehensive on-site assessment. This is hosted by AssureCare, a service of CHCS Services Incorporated. The purpose of this training is to review a comprehensive guide for completing a benefit eligibility assessment for a long-term care insurance company. For an introduction to AssureCare, AssureCare is a service of CHCS Services that coordinates in-home assessments for long-term care insurance companies to determine a policyholder's eligibility. The assessment team at AssureCare works with registered nurses located across the country to perform these assessments as the LTCIs order them. This is a non-traditional nursing role. The purpose is to gather information and document observations of the activities of daily living performed to provide a clear and concise vision of the insured's present state as a whole. The assessment is returned, AssureCare completes a review process, and reaches out to assessors if any clarifications are required. Once in good order, AssureCare submits the paperwork to the LTCIs for determination. For a timeline of the assessment, AssureCare receives assessment requests daily from long-term care insurance companies and completes intake with the family. The AssureCare team confirms the insured's address, contact person, any special handling instructions. They also give them a heads up of what to expect with the assessment. AssureCare then offers the assessment to registered nurses in the local area. 30 miles round trip is included in the contracted rate, and any mileage over 30 miles round trip is paid at the IRS standard mileage reimbursement rate. If the local nurse accepts the assignment, AssureCare will email the assessment materials. This includes the assessment forms and special handling information if applicable, and verification information. It's important to note all registered nurses assessors do have the option to decline assessments if they are busy or unavailable for a period of time. We do ask as a nurse working with AssureCare that if you do have an extended period of time you're unavailable to complete assessments, you do notify AssureCare of this. Once the nurse accepts the assignment and receives the paperwork, they will begin calling to schedule the appointment the same day to the contact that's been designated. The nurse is expected to schedule the appointment within the next week unless the client or contact requires a later date. This should be the first agreeable time between the client, and the nurse should keep AssureCare updated of contact attempts and any instances of unresponsiveness. The best way to keep AssureCare up to date is by using the email on the left-hand side of the screen, onsiteassessments@assurecare.com. Once the family and the nurse confirm the appointment time, 24 hours prior to the appointment, the nurse will call to confirm again, and then the RN will complete the assessment on the designated day. Once the assessment is complete and returned to AssureCare, that would happen within 24 hours after the appointment. AssureCare receives the assessment and the clinical review period begins. It is important to be available after the completion of the assessment and the return of the assessment, as the nurse may receive a call for the clarification if necessary. Clarification calls are expected to be returned within 24 hours or as soon as possible, and delays in returning this call could cause a delay in AssureCare in being able to send the insured's claim and a delay in AssureCare being able to pay the assessor or nurse for the completed assessment. Once all clarifications are done as necessary, the completed assessment is sent to the insurance company, and AssureCare then processes the payment to the nurse on a biweekly pay schedule. For an overview of the assessment, there are four sections to take note of. One is the demographics, two is the cognitive portion, three is the activities of daily living, and four are the summaries. All sections must be complete, but you may go out of order if the situation calls for it. Important definitions before we get into the assessment tool itself. The term independent means can perform by oneself with or without the aid of equipment. Verbal cueing, prompts, or reminders. These are cues or reminders needed to either initiate or complete a task or both. Standby assistance. This is assistance within arm's reach from another person. Hands on assistance. This is physical assistance from another person. Important tips. Document the reliable participant's response, such as a POA, family member, or caregiver. When the insured has a reported memory impairment, it is likely information offered by them may not be reliable. They are encouraged to participate, however, documented information for the assessment should be from the reliable party, somebody who is present, for example. If the insured is not present, do not conduct the assessment. Report back to AssuraCare. Let AssuraCare know what exactly happened when you arrived to complete the assessment. For example, if the family member or participant was there but the insured was not, try to reschedule the assessment and advise that the insured has to be there and keep AssuraCare updated of that event. The insured must be there physically, however, they may be nonverbal or immobile and cannot complete demonstrations. You would still complete the assessment and document to the best of the ability using the information provided by the additional participant. Exact dates are preferred, approximate dates are acceptable. It will always be better to get an exact date, especially when trying to put together a timeline of the instances that led the insured to file for claim. However, they may not have the exact dates, and writing such as spring of this year is acceptable. You are not expected to answer any policy questions. If the family is asking you or the policyholder questions such as, when will I know if my policy is approved? Will my care provider be covered under my benefits? Advise the individual that they need to speak with their individual insurance company regarding these types of questions. If the insured is in a facility, it can be helpful to obtain the medication list and plan of care from the nurse's office. This can be returned with the completed assessment to AssuraCare. Do not contact the insured or family member or facility once the assessment is complete. This is against AssuraCare policy. The first pages of the assessment are going to be assessment info, and consent. Fill in this information, and on the following page, the policyholder will sign. If the policyholder is unable to add their signature to this page, the authorized representative's signature must be there, and there would be no signature in the policyholder signature field. The demographic information will be provided by AssuraCare in the confirmation email. The correct date of birth will be needed to confirm identification, as well as one answer in the cognitive exam. For continued demographic information, it is important for the insurance company to know if the insured is currently working. If the insured is requiring or receiving assistance with the activities of daily living and is still working, be sure to note in summary how the insured manages when at work and what type of job they have. For example, is it a labor intensive job, or is it more of a sitting at a desk and typing, looking at a computer type of work that they're performing? You would only put present work in this category. It's important to understand if the insured lives alone, with somebody, or in a facility. Document clearly in the last box the reason for the insured needing services. That's the field what event, incident, injury, or acute chronic illness has prompted the policyholder to need long-term care services. The policyholder may try to give you a general answer such as, I've submitted a claim to receive benefits. The insurance company is looking to be very specific in this box as to what incident, injury, or illness has prompted the need for this service. To give some specific examples, maybe there was a fall that resulted in a fractured hip, or an automobile accident that resulted in injury, maybe a specific diagnosis such as Parkinson's. That you would want to be as specific as possible in this field. The last section on this page is the power of attorney information. For care services, start by listing the paid providers such as facility care, home health care, or private paid caregivers. List any unpaid family members, even neighbors, that could be providing care, since the family may assist with medication management, transportation, the ADLs or IADLs, such as finances, meal making, homemaking, or supervision. Document care provided over the past 6 months. And be sure to confirm the number of hours and days for care, and again, include approximate answer if they cannot provide exact dates. Ask the insured or the insured's representative to describe the type of assistance that is being provided. Please take note that this section should match the information in the ADL sections below. And if there is a discrepancy, be sure to ask before ending the assessment. For example, if they advise that they're receiving paid provider help for bathing, but then in the bottom section on the activities of daily living for bathing, they say they do not need assistance, that would be a discrepancy in which you would want to clarify on the assessment tool. The next page will ask for insurance information, which should be reviewed with the insured or their representative. For physicians, note insured's physicians and the type of physician, especially the primary care provider and a neurologist if applicable. If the AssureCare is unable to submit the assessment if there is no PCP. If the LTCI needs to order additional medical records, this information will be very useful. As a reminder, again, approximate dates are okay. For hospitalizations, add the dates and the reason for the hospitalization, as it's important to build a timeline of when care needs may have started due to an event or diagnosis as the cause for claim. Multiple hospitalizations can tell a story of the insured's health decline. List all hospitalizations within the past 6 months, and if you do need additional fields, fill that in the bottom section, add any additional information about hospitalizations, physicians, etc. For self-reported history, hearing and vision loss can cause the insured to score lower on the cognitive exams. Vision loss can be also a reason the insured requires additional help with services such as ADLs or homemaking services. And knowing if the insured drives is especially important in cognitive cases, as this could be a safety concern. For filling in the policyholder's approximate height and approximate weight, you would ask them to provide this information or fill in based on your best judgment if they're unable to advise an approximate guess, as this does help paint the picture of what the insured looks like to the insurance company as they're reviewing this assessment. Ask the insured what are their diagnoses and ask for the insured for the medication list. If they're unable or do not know the date of onset, they can write unknown or write approximate answer in these fields. As a reminder, the intake team at AssureCare is going to prepare the family and the insured to have the medical information prepared ahead of time, so that this should go a little quicker when you're filling this out with the family. It's important to note if the insured needs assistance taking their medications and who assists the insured. If more than one person assists, such as a spouse and a home health aide, be sure to note that under the medication section. The next section is the cognitive exams. Note if the insured is able to participate in the cognitive exams, or if the insured is unable to participate, note the reasons as to why, reason or reasons. It is a requirement for submitting the claim that the cognitive exams are complete. The only time it is acceptable to not complete the cognitive testing is when the insured is highly agitated, nonverbal, in a coma, or another example of a distinct situation warranting inability to complete testing. Such a situation must be documented in why is the insured unable to complete under the final scoring. And an example, to be specific, is the insured was pacing and suspicious of the nurse's presence, refused to answer any questions or speak to the nurse directly. The spouse provided all demographic and ADL information. For the Folstein or mini mental status exam, this must be administered exactly as described in each section. Read the questions or instructions to the insured and record the insured's response exactly as provided. Again, making sure to document exactly what their first response is, and if they don't know or they become silent during answering, note that in the response section. To call out a couple specific questions on this page, number 9, what is this place? If the insured does reside in a facility and they call it their home, that would be acceptable as they are viewing the unit as their home. An incorrect response would be if they reside in a facility and they say they're at their son's house, for example. For the last question, number 10, what is this address? If they are in a facility, they do need to provide more than just a unit or a room number. They would need to be able to provide the street address as well for the facility. For the registration section of the MMSE, answer yes to the recall questions only if the insured responded correctly on the first try. They need to get it correct the first time. For attention and calculation, it's important to only have the insured complete one of the below questions, either A or B. They do not need to complete both. For example, after you provide them the prompts, either beginning with the number 100, count backwards by 7, stop after 5 answers, or spell world backwards. Once they've selected one, say they do option A. If they start to do several guesses and they ask to change to option B, they must continue with A as they have selected that option. For recall, ask the policyholder to recall the 3 objects you asked them to repeat to you in the previous section. Again, they must get this correct on the first try. For language, this section you're going to show them a pen or pencil and ask what it is called, show a wristwatch and ask what this is called. If you do not have either item or a wristwatch, use another common item in the room, such as glasses, or point to a clock and indicate in the response section if you did use an alternative item. You will also need to bring a piece of paper with you for them to complete the second portion of this language question. The MMSE instructions are located on this page and they will correspond to page 13 of the assessment to administer the questions to the right. Please document each response clearly. This is another page that will need to be printed and brought with you to the assessment to be able to provide to the insured. If you did not bring one ahead of time, you can copy the questions onto a blank piece of paper with you to have the insured fill in the responses. This page must be returned to AssuraCare with the completed assessment. This page here is the instruction page provided to the insured, prompting them to read the sentence and close their eyes. If they do not close their eyes when prompted, they did not complete the task correctly. This page again must be returned to AssuraCare. For the scoring section, you will fill in the answers from the completion of the section above, and you'll also note on your observation how the policyholder was responding. Check any that apply during the interaction you had for this portion of the assessment. The next section will be the short portable mental status questionnaire. For this, you will ask the questions in the orientation section and record their response in the policyholder response question. To clarify, for the date of birth, you're going to make sure that that includes day, month, and year, not just birth year. That would need to be the entirety of their birthday. For cognitive history, this information should be obtained by the insured's representative. The only time the insured should be asked for the cognitive history is if they are alone during the assessment. Use the additional information section to note behaviors, memory concerns, or specific examples such as they left the stove on, they were lost while driving, or previous testing scores. In this section, it's important to document any observed safety concerns. If they're in present danger in their current living situation, you would write, yes, there are safety concerns and explain what they are. If they're in a memory care unit or have 24/7 care in place, it's likely they are not in danger and there are not safety concerns. However, if you observe the policyholder to be in imminent danger, any safety concerns, being a mandated reporter as an RN, it is really important to contact AssuraCare if you need further direction, or make sure to include this in this section and the additional summary, any safety concerns that may be necessary to document for the insured. The next section is the activities of daily living, or ADLs. The policyholder will perform or mimic the activities of daily living, and it's crucial, do not ask the policyholder to actually perform them. They will not undress, toilet, or bathe. They are going to be mimicking these actions to observe a understanding of their physical and functional capabilities. If the policyholder needs assistance with demonstrating these actions, whoever typically assists may show the assessor how they help. Demonstrations to illustrate daily living are required. If the policyholder is unable to demonstrate, gather their verbal description on how they typically perform the ADL, asking, how do you perform the activity? And the assessor should be able to describe the responses of the insured or their representative as detailed as possible. It will always be preferred that the policyholder attempts to demonstrate or mimic the activities of daily living. The only time they should not demonstrate is if there is a safety concern. For example, do not have the insured demonstrate a task if they require assistance and the assistance is not present. For example, they maybe are fatigued from attempting to do some of the demonstrations and cannot continue. They are not demoing doing the demonstration. Please ensure again to be very descriptive with the verbal response you're receiving. If they do say they receive assistance from someone who's not a present, ask how that additional party provides assistance to them. Throughout all of the activities of daily living, you will need to make sure to include range of motion, strength, and balance. These play an important role in understanding the insured's capabilities. Include what you saw. Again, include range of motion, strength, and balance. The first activity of daily living is mobility, demonstrating examples for indoor and outdoor mobility. For indoor, an example that could be filled in this section is the insured picked up his feet sufficiently to ambulate with walker about residence. Insured has a mild hunched over appearance, is slow to move, has an even gait, and relies on walker for stability and balance. It's important to note no demonstration is required for outdoor mobility. This will be documented on what is reported to you verbally. Again, you would not instruct the insured to go outside. You're simply asking them to tell you what their experience is and describe verbally their outdoor mobility. For chair transfers, this includes all chairs in the home, such as a sofa or couch, a lift chair, etc., but this does not include car transfers. A demonstration example for a chair transfer could be the insured pushed with hands on chair and rocked several times to rise without success, falling back into chair. Insured did not have upper strength to push to stand. Daughter provided hands on to rise, claps back into chair to return to seated position. This type of documentation is going to help the insured get, or help the LTCI rather, get a visual of what the insured's experience is with a chair transfer. For bed transfers, a good example of a demonstration for a bed transfer would be the insured uses walker to get out of bed, turns around and holds onto walker as she lowers herself to a sitting position on bed, can lift her legs onto bed and lay down. Insured gets out of bed by pushing herself to a seating position, moves legs to side of bed, places feet on the floor, and uses her hands to push herself up, grasps onto walker and raises to a standing position using walker for stability. If insured does not sleep in a bed and sleeps in a lift chair, please note that. Assistance level for bed transfer would be non-applicable if that is the case, as they are not sleeping in a bed. For dressing upper body, dressing examples would include having the insured demonstrate how they would potentially use a jacket with a zipper, buttons, if they have arm, neck, or back braces that they're wearing. The insured must demonstrate again the range of motion, strength, and balance. So, a good example here would be insured has decreased range of motion in shoulders and decreased endurance. So, it takes her a longer time to get dressed. Insured has difficulty maintaining arms above shoulder height, so she wears clothes that are easier to manage. Insured uses walker, bed, and furniture for balance while dressing. Important to articulate during this category is how high they can lift their arms for demonstrating capabilities, and also take note of any adaptive or changes they might have made in this example, such as wearing clothes that are easier to manage. That's an important piece to document during these activities of daily living. For dressing lower body during this category, it's important to put into play again their range of motion and how deep can they bend. Demonstration of lower body dressing includes socks, shoes, pants, undergarments, Ted hose, compression stockings, and leg braces. For an example demonstration, insured sits on bed and stabilizes herself as she slowly puts on pants over feet, uses walker or furniture for balance when standing to pull up pants. Insured wears slip-on shoes that she can slide her foot into to make it easier. Requires hands-on assistance to put on remove Ted hose 3 times a week. Note, dressing assistance does not include helping insured choose the clothes from closet or drawers. If insured needs assistance choosing appropriate clothing for weather due to cognitive deficiencies, please note this in the cognitive section. The next section is incontinence or continence. When determining the insured's level of assistance, it should not be based on needing assistance with disposing of incontinence products or homemaking services related to episodes of incontinence, such as changing bed linens or cleaning the floor. Evaluate, can the insured maintain proper hygiene after an incontinent episode, cleaning, wiping oneself, for example, and are they able to put on or take off Depends pads as necessary. This ADL only requires documenting what is reported by the reliable party. There is no demonstration that is needed with this activity of daily living. For toileting, a good demonstration example for this ADL ensured demonstrated dexterity to lean forward and or reach to perform hygiene. Ensured demonstrated she can adequately grab bars to balance as needed as she performs hygiene. Ensured is able to change adult pads as needed. Important information to note. If the insured is using equipment such as a walker, can the walker fit into the restroom with no issues? If the insured uses bedside commode or urinal, assistance does not include just emptying it. Also document if there are grab bars that the insured is using. For bathing, a good example that can be provided, insured wheels to bathroom, sun positions transfer board and slides him across and then moves board into tub. It turns, insured is on bench, sun washes and rinses all parts of the body. Insured tries to reach what he can, sun transfers onto board and into lift wheelchair, wet, and then they go to the bedroom where he dries and applies lotion to insured. Another example could be insured's caregiver stated insured uses walker to get to shower. Caregiver places her hand on insured's back and holds onto her arm to help insured into the shower, as there is a 1 inch step to get into the shower area. Caregiver provides hands-on assistance with washing back and feet, and insured can wash all other parts independently while sitting on shower bench. Caregiver then provides hand-on assistance to exit shower. For the next activity of daily living, this is eating. A good demonstration example for eating. Simply ask the insured to hold a bottle or pen to mimic the moving motion of food to mouth and document what you see. range of motion, dexterity, tremors, for example. Evaluate, can the insured feed themselves with utensil and or hold a cup to drink. Final clinical judgment is not based on meal prep or cutting or serving. If the insured is at risk for choking, standby assistance should be marked. Check off no for mechanical means unless the insured uses a feeding tube to eat. Include queuing only needed for another to sit with insured during meals and continually queue, picking up utensils to feed oneself. Otherwise, the insured would leave the table without completing the meal. That would be a reason to select queuing for the eating activity of daily living. The next section is the instrumental activities of daily living. For this category, you're reporting the level of assistance needed and who assists with this activity. At the bottom, ensure to list any safety concerns. This would be oxygen tubing, for example, scattered rugs, dogs or cats if someone has an ambulation issues, or any instances of hoarding that are observed. For the summary overview, this is where you would document if the insured's needs are being met, summarize the insured's care needs overall appearance and orientation. Informal care, who is assisting insured when paid help is not present, or how do they manage when they're alone? Do they have any upcoming plans to move to a higher level of care, such as an assisted living facility? And note if the insured uses special equipment or, again, any modified clothing to become modified independent. Some tips on what not to include in the summary. Notes to AssuraCare. You can call AssuraCare with any type of notes, but that would not be written into the assessment. Subjective recommendations. These would be statements leading with I believe or I feel the insured should be in a nursing home or they should receive physical therapy. Do not make eligibility determinations. Do not answer any insurance questions or provide policy education. Do not try to determine care in the past or in the future. Example, insured is currently independent, however, she may need assistance in the future. Obtaining any additional information after the assessment has been completed. If this is the case, the insured or family member would like to provide you more information after the assessment's been completed, please direct them to AssuraCare to review any additional information. For the cognitive summary, an example that you would want to write in here would be the overall cognitive status. Were they alert? Were they oriented? How many times did you have to prompt questions? What was their general appearance? And there any diagnoses that need to be called out that were reported or observed? A good sample summary: insured was pleasant and cooperative during the assessment. She was unable to comprehend why I was performing this assessment, even though I explained the process and reasoning twice. Daughters provided all health history and medical information. Insured did not have any answers to the medication questions, medications, or assistance being provided in the home. The insured was diagnosed with dementia in 2020 and received 24/7 supervision to prevent unsafe ambulations or transfers due to poor safety awareness. For the functional incapacity summary, this would be a summary on the functional observations that were held during the assessment, including physical characteristics, fall history, gait, strength, range of motion, dexterity, pain, shortness of breath, for example. An example summary could be insured had very good upper body and lower body range of motion. She was able to demonstrate extending arms in the air above her head and bending deeply at the waist while standing without losing balance. She ambulated smoothly with an erect posture and good balance. The insured is receiving hands-on assistance with showering due to 2 falls in the past 4 weeks when entering, exiting due to reported safety awareness. Some final suggestions and thoughts on when completing a benefit eligibility assessment. Ask the insured's representative to gather the medication diagnosis list while you're completing the cognitive exam, especially if the insured resides in a facility. This could speed up filling in that part of the assessment. Start with the section of the exam the insured can participate in, just in case the insured becomes tired or needs to leave. Again, it is okay to go out of order with the sections. Some individuals choose to do the activities of daily living first, as that does require the most strength, and then move on to the later sections after. Always use your best nursing judgment. If the insured becomes agitated or aggressive, immediately stop directing questions to the insured and gather the information from the representative. If the insured becomes dizzy and unbalanced, have them sit and rest. If the insured is cognitively impaired and wants to participate in the assessment by answering the questions, be sure to confirm the accuracy of the responses with the family or the facility member that is present. Again, as a final note, it is important to return back the assessment to AssuraCare within 24 hours after completing it. If there are any questions or clarifications that are needed, which is very common to make sure we are submitting a good, complete assessment to the insurance company, please make sure to call back AssuraCare as soon as possible or within 24 hours as to not delay the submission of the claim. Thank you for watching the on-site training video.